All right, we're going to answer a question that probably I would say comes up at least once a month because it's an interesting question. It's a good question, and it's about using multiple interfaces with your DAW like Pro Tools and so forth. Now, I know more about the side of Pro Tools and some of the options that they provide to allow USB interfaces to work in multiple format, which is really cool. A lot of people don't know about that. So, to give you like straight up the best way to do it, in my case, I have multiple USB interfaces as mastering converters. And what I can use, let me go on screen here, is not my Samsung TV. We master with a Samsung TV. That's not funny. So the Pro Tools aggregate IO, I think that's how you pronounce that. But what that allows you to do is if I go to audio MIDI setup and I go to Pro Tools aggregate, and this is Mac based. I don't know about Windows. I think there's a thing called ASIO for all for Windows, and you can use that as the Windows format. But I have the Pure 2 and the Amari right now in our mastering chain. This allows me to use the Pure 2s in and outs and the Amaris. For some reason, my Pure 2's not on. I don't think I had it on during the launch of my computer. But that's what you do. So you have multiple interfaces. Now, as if I open up Pro Tools, and I go to select playback engine, I can go to aggregate IO, Pro Tools aggregate IO, and now I'm using two USB interfaces together. Some of the things that you can run into, and I think as Pro Tools has moved forward in their software updates and stuff, I don't get latency between these two. You may. So you got to be very careful. Use your delay compensation. Low buffer size helps in this regard. But the question is this. So the question that was asked to me, and let me open up my YouTube channel here real quick, so I can read the question. And I'm gonna sort of just put it in brief because I know what the gentleman's name's Daniel Kang, and he's asking a question that most people ask, and it's a good question. And the question reads like this: so he has a UFX interface from RME. It's a really nice interface. I just opened up a picture of it, so I could see how many ins and outs and all that good stuff. So he's asking about, so how do I properly hook this thing up? The audio interface directly to the speakers, so he wants to use the RME to run to the speakers, and then he said he got off the phone with Apogee, which he has a Symphony IO as well. And Apogee told him that the sound quality will reduce when the signal is passing through two different converters. That can be a yes and a no, because if you're using a digital format, you should just be transferring a digital signal back and forth. Now, to agree with Apogee, there could be a degrading of the signal from the symphony back and forth going through the RME if the RME is reclocking the signal or if it's reprocessing that digital signal. A lot of converters, you have to look at your manual, and like for example on the Amari there's a sample rate conversion. Now on an Antelope Amari, I'm not really concerned if it's sample rate converting because I actually want it to. It's a really pristine converter. But if you're using, let's say for example, the RME in this case that may not be known for, I'm not gonna knock converters. Okay, RME is probably one of the most stable, successful companies when it comes to this. Their drivers are really stable. I have an RME interface over here. But yeah, when we're talking about an Apogee Symphony, they're known for their sound quality. They're known for their conversion quality. What the question is this: how do you hook it up? So let's do that first before I confuse you, confuse the daylights out of you. So if you look at the back of this interface, this is the RME. So every interface, in order to do this correctly, it's going to have some sense of digital. Okay, so you can see the fiber optic on the back of this interface. That's adat out and adat in. There's two, so that's pretty much 16 in and out, 16 IO. So you can actually run two 8x8 Symphony converters here. So to answer his question, how do you do this? And it's on him. Okay, it's on him. If you hear a signal degrade, that's fine. Let me explain one of my earlier videos. I was using a Command 8 because at the time that's all I could afford. and I'm sorry, it's a Digi 002. It looks like a Command 8. It's like, it wasn't the best at all. It was not good conversion. It wasn't that good. And as I was growing my studio, I had a Manly MU and an Avalon, and I'm like, dude, this is getting out of control. I need something better. And I just, I just believed that I needed to upgrade. And by the grace of God, I was able to afford like an old school Apogee converter that was really, really improvement in sound quality. So the way that I ran it was out of the Digi 002, it was this connection right here, the ADAT in and out. So I went out of this, in this case it would be the RME, and I fed the Symphony IO. Let me go to this, Symphony IO. So, oh, it's a Valentine's Day sale. Maybe we're gonna have to buy one. Yeah, I don't need any more converters there, guys. So this is the newer one, even if he has the older one. Let me see one of their cards. Where's a card? Anyways, I guess I'm not going to see a card. But the back of the Symphony IO, you're going to have to make sure. Here you go. So this card wouldn't work, I can already tell. Yeah, because there's only spdif. So that's not going to work. You're going to have a card with adat. So you're going to have to get a Symphony card. Let me go Symphony 8x8. 8x8. Because I think the 8x8 has a adat. There you go. So there you go. So that's literally going to be, in his case, that's what you're going to need to hook up. So if you want to run it spdif, you can. Okay, it's digital spdif, but you're going to need in that case, you're going to have a cable that's doing the conversion from adat to spdif. So the best way to get transfer from this setup is to have an 8x8 or an adat in and out, or now if it's a 2-channel Symphony card, your best bet's going to be running it Pro Tools Aggregate or using ASI for all if you're on Windows, because you're going to be running an 8-channel converter. Now here's the other thing that you can do is you can run AES. Okay, there's an AES DB25, and I don't know if you have the 2x2, the 8x8, the 16x16, but this is the digital connection. If you have an 8x8 card, it's as simple as running 2 fiber optic cables back and forth. So you're just running an ADAT out of it and an ADAT back into it, back and forth, and making like a complete loop. If you have a 2-channel, I think it's like a 2x4, Apogee 2x4. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I haven't seen these in a while. But I think there was AES on that card. I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't even see that card anymore. So, but the 2x4, let me think about this for a second. So here's your interface once again. So you have, on this interface, you have AES. Okay, that can carry 2 channels of audio. So that's a left-right stereo off of 1XLR. AES is a digital format. So the only way to ensure you're not going to degrade, if there is any way to do that, is AES out and AES in. Now, that's how you do it. So you're going to run, if you have a 2-channel Symphony, that's probably your best bet. After Pro Tools Aggregate and just running it as a USB standalone. I'm in a USB interface and then running the UFX as a USB interface and running them together. In this case, you have AES EBU, which is 2 channels of conversion, and you also have 2 different modes of ADAT. You have digital spdif, which would carry 2 channels out and in of the ADAT, or you have 8 channels IO SMUX. That's what I call it, SMUX. And then you can run 8 in and out if you have an 8-channel card on your Symphony. That's how you do it. And when you show up, when you have something connected to this, you're going to see your digital IOs show up as more inputs and outputs. So to use those ins and outs, you're going to actually choose those ins and outs in a Pro Tools session, or a Logic session, or a Reason session, or whatever you're running. But that's how you do it. But the best solution, I promise you, if you can get it to work, is this. Audio MIDI setup, Pro Tools aggregate. In this case, I have a Pure Tune and Amari for our mastering rig, and I can use both. Okay, I can use both in conjunction. But let me explain this too. I also have it hooked up where I have spdif in and out, because spdif carries 2 channels of audio. So these are 2-channel converters for the mastering room, so it's like spdif out to the spdif in of the Amari, spdif out of the Amari back to the spdif in of the Pure 2. So now you have like a loop, so I can still have that option. I could use AES. AES is its own cable. AES EBU carries a digital signal. So anything that's going to carry a digital signal will be the best bet for not degrading or using that converter. Now if you just ran analog out of your UFX to the analog in of your Symphony, you're going to degrade it. Or you're going to, let me explain this. If I think maybe Symphony or Apogee was thinking this way. If you go analog out of your converter and feed it to an analog input of that UFX, it will degrade the signal, or it will change, not degrade. I don't know this converter, so I can't say whether or not it's good or bad. I don't know. But the line level input now is going to actually become your analog to digital converter if you run it analog. If you run it digital ADAT or digital AES, and then you can actually clock the converter, and that's a whole different thing, and I have to sort of cover it in this video because you have to clock them from one or the other. Then you're going to be able to pick and choose which converter dominates the master and which one's the slave in the signal. So look at this. On the back of this, you have this ADAT thing. This word clock. Now you're going to have to run a word clock out of the Symphony to the word clock in of the UFX, because you're going to have to tell the 2 interfaces which one's your master clock. You can get away with setting both clocks different. Now here's the other thing. If you're running ADAT in, you can get your clock signal from the ADAT, or you can get your clock signal from the AES. And your word clock in, you can get the clock signal from the word clock in. I'm not gonna lie, this is confusing to a new person. Okay, this isn't like rookie stuff. You can get into some big complicated groups of stuff, and that's why I said Pro Tools aggregate, and then probably adding a word clock cable. A word clock cable, I don't even know if I have one around here. Let me see. A word clock cable is a coax cable. It looks like a cable you use for your cable TV, but it's not. It's got a different ohm, and you can get them off of any music store. Just say I need a coax word clock cable. And you're gonna have to link the out to the in, and that's it. So whatever one you want to be the master clock is going to become your word clock out. In this case, knowing the Symphony sound, I would use the Symphony's clock, word clock out to the word clock in of your UFX here. But that's how you do it. Digital ADAT, digital AES, depending on your card. If you only have spdif on your card, it would be AES to spdif. If you have an 8x8 Symphony, it'd be ADAT to ADAT. If you have Pro Tools, it'd be Pro Tools aggregate IO, and you can use them both as USB interfaces. And in your case, I would run the Apogee Symphony IO as your word clock out to the word clock in of your UFX. And then you can still use your monitor out on this interface, but you aren't going to hear the DA. You see what I mean? So you're not going to hear the DA of your Symphony, you're going to hear the DA of your UFX. And I hope that didn't just like totally screw everything up. But if you want to hear your monitors from the Symphony, you're going to have to hook up like output 1 and 2 of the Symphony to your monitors with the volume control. And that's how you do it. So my name's Doug Jenkins. Hopefully that helps you and more people out there. So hopefully that was all right. We'll see you.